Hi, this is Kirk, the Bariatric Carnivore. Quit tracking your food, at least on a daily basis. We play a lot of silly games with ourselves when we're dieting and we're trying to pay attention to what we eat. And many of us have started using apps on our cell phones to keep track of what we're eating, and it tells us how many calories we're taking in, how much protein, and we're tracking macros, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we look at usually everything on a daily basis. And I think that's kind of a mistake. It's kind of the subtle game that I used to play with myself when I used to eat a standard American diet, and I would track my food and, doing the Weight Watchers thing or whatever. And I'd go into the gym and I'd jump up on the treadmill, and the treadmill would tell me that I burned 560 calories. And I'd kind of calculate, that's kind of a donut. So I can have a donut today because, when I look at my overall calories that I've ingested, burned that day versus what I've taken in, I can get away with a donut. And that's nonsense. Frankly, most of the time on a weekly basis, if you start tracking things weekly, you're going to start seeing better trends than you would if you just look at everything every day. Some days I don't eat. I just don't feel like it. So how does that count in the overall count? Some days I'm hungrier than others and I eat a lot more. So, my hunger is my guide. So I don't track on a regular basis now because I've been eating this way for so long and it's so relatively simple that I don't need to. But I did when I started, and I looked at things on a weekly basis as to how much I was eating, and basically trying to make sure that because I had had bariatric surgery, I wanted to make sure that I was getting an adequate amount of protein. And I knew that if I looked at it every day, some days I got more, some days I got less. But when I looked at it over the course of a week, I realized, okay, yes, I'm getting enough fat, I'm getting enough protein. I was down to virtually zero carbs at the time, so I wasn't even worried about those. But, I was looking at the macronutrient content, and then would dig in a little bit deeper to find out some of the micronutrients too. And that kind of gave me a little peace of mind after doing it for a month or so, and realized, okay, this is what I'm eating on a regular basis, and this is what my weekly counts look like, and that was fine. I was good. I was, and quit tracking after that. But for those of you that are tracking on a daily basis, be careful with the daily stuff. It's too easy to play subtle games with ourselves and to give ourselves permission to give ourselves quote unquote special treats because we deserve it because we were at the gym. And we tend to ignore the mochas that we get at Starbucks. When you do a nutritional count of how many calories and how many carbs are in one of those mochas, you will quit eating and drinking them because you're drinking a ton of calories. It's far more than a donut. It's almost like a half a bag of cookies. So be careful with that type of stuff. Be careful about giving yourself treats because you think you're doing good because you worked out. The treadmill says that you use hundreds of calories. Let me give you a dirty little secret when it comes to calories. The federal government gives every processed food manufacturer 20% leeway on how many calories are in their food. That means they can be off easily 20% high or low at any given moment. It's a bad measure of what you're eating. The treadmills are historically totally inaccurate. Even when they say, okay, put in your weight, etc., and try to, put all this biometric data in there, they're really off. It's difficult, very difficult, to really measure with certainty what the caloric intake is of a given food. It is difficult to know with certainty the amount of caloric expenditure there was during your exercise session. Don't fret it. If you're just doing a very simple thing, if you're not eating carbs and processed junk food, and you eat until you're full, and you don't eat again until you're hungry, your body will satiate itself and keep your weight normal. Think about this. How many critters, take a look at lions that are not in a zoo, but out in the wild. How many of them do you see that are really overweight? How many wolves do you see that are really overweight? How many really overweight animals that are not domesticated do you see that are really overweight? You're not going to find any because the bodies regulate themselves. How many fat Aboriginal people do you see on the planet? Frankly, you don't, because they don't, it's only in our world where you have an overabundance of cheap and easy processed food that you're going to have a weight problem. The only time you have fat animals is when they put them around humans and they can give them pet chow, processed foods. When you give them real meat, they'll eat until they're full and then they'll just leave it there because they're full. They can't eat anymore. But boy, you keep giving them processed grains and kibble and stuff like that, they'll eat until they're fat. Take a look at any pet, and I can look at their owner, I can tell they're probably fat too. I mean, that's just a sad fact of reality. So anyway, quit tracking your food on a daily basis. Realize that there's real limitations to those things, that they're not perfect measures. I mean, look, if they're off by 20% and you were off by your caloric intake by 20% every year, that's a lot of weight. No wonder you're so fat. You've been tracking your macros all the time. You know how many calories you take in every day. You know how many you are burning off every day according to the gym equipment. Yet you're still gaining weight. Why? Because they're off by 20%, which means you're stuck. You've been eating 20% more calories than you thought you were eating, and that's perfectly legal and legit according to the system. So don't think that tracking your macros and your calories every day is really making a difference. It really isn't, not for weight loss. The way you do that is by getting rid of the processed food and reducing the amount of carbs in your diet. Ideally 20 grams of carbohydrates a day, or 0 carbs or as close to it as possible by going carnivore. Either one of those will get you weight loss. Well, maybe more importantly, fat loss. I don't care if I gain weight or not. All I care about is how much fat that I'm carrying around. If I'm putting on more muscle, I'm great with that too. So I don't care about the scale so much. I certainly don't care about calories. I don't think you should either. But when you're starting off, if you're really concerned about how much protein you're getting, how much fat you're getting, look at it by the week, not by the day. That'll give you a much indicator. This is Kirk, the Bariatric Carnivore. I hope you enjoyed this message. If you want to be part of this tribe, join other people that are working to get healthier, some of whom have had bariatric surgery, some of them are contemplating it. Please join us. We're working every day to get ourselves free of the medical system, lowering the cost of our daily lives, lowering the cost of medical care for ourselves, lowering our food costs, and making ourselves stronger and healthier in the process. If this is your type of tribe, please hit the like, subscribe button. We'll be glad to have you with us. I guarantee it's not for everybody. Not everybody is going to want this type of message. But, I want to make it available for those that want to free themselves from the system while they still can. So hopefully you will join us, click and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow.